I'm Aiden, and I really love Guilty Gear. 2.0 has just come out, I've hit nearly 800 hours on Strive, and I'm still regularly going to tournaments for it. It has fundamentally helped me grow as a person and realize things about myself that would have taken me so much longer otherwise. Representation is so important. Rest in peace, Testament Gear. Arcsys, please give my fucking bird back! So, back in July of 2024, when an anime adaptation of the series' latest entry was announced, naturally, I was very excited to see how it would look, what events it'd be following, and what new characters would be introduced. The first poster revealed the title of the show, Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers, and it featured the first new original Strive character since Happy Chaos. Kind of insane, it took 10 whole new DLC characters to get a character not featured previously in the series. Her name was Unica, and she looked cool. It also featured entirely new renders of Sin Kisk and Soul Bad Guy. Seeing the big man with short hair made me very, very upset. The design has grown on me a bit since, but I don't think it will ever replace the wild long ponytail he's had since debut. Instantly, me and some friends started theorizing. Who is Unica? What was her deal? Most called that she was just going to have Kai's arc, but again, going from exceedingly racist to finding out Gears aren't that bad and actually they were just victimized by things that were entirely out of their control. On January 22nd, 2025, the first Dual Rulers trailer dropped on Arcsystemworks' YouTube channel, revealing Unica's motivation was what everyone thought it was going to be, that Sim was going to be the main character, the Kisks were getting married, Dizzy had her exit design for some reason, and that Johnny, Leo, Elfelt, Ramlethal, Jacko, Biken, Vernon, yeah, you remember him, and the character that probably funded the whole anime, Bridget, would be featured characters. As well as another new character, Nerval, who looks like the most generically evil mustache-twirling villain just ever. Finally, the show was announced to debut in April of 2025. It was a decent trailer. The show was fully 3D as expected, but all the models and effects looked really good, and the animation, while a little stiff in places, had a unique flair that I thought had tons of potential. Well, now it's been a full year since Dual Rulers released, and the series has largely been remembered as a "that sure happened." It gave us Unica, some great fight scenes, Bridget naked, and some really poor pacing. But ultimately, it just wasn't that memorable. I doubt most of you watching even know it's been a full year since it came out. Now personally, I remembered really enjoying Dual Rulers. Initially, I planned to have this video out a bit after the series ended, but never actually finished the video. That can be said for many, many projects. One day that FE4 video will be done. The series had just came out after the just fucking awful Netflix Devil May Cry anime, so I was a lot more pleased with it than others. Everyone was written really in character, the stakes were well established, the dynamics were entertaining, and it just kept to the themes of the series. But I'm not completely sure if I enjoyed it because I went in with my expectations just so completely in the gutter from a different shit show, or if I enjoyed it on its own merit. So I decided to give it another shot. I rewatched the entire show from start to finish, and I'm going to go episode by episode, rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, and ultimately come to my own, unclouded, unbiased opinion on if Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers was any good. Now with the preamble out of the way, let's begin with this first episode. Ceremony begins with a recap of some of the most integral pieces of Guilty Gear's lore, the history of the Crusades, and the Kisks. This is one of the two goals of the first episode, to catch up the audience who don't know Gears lore on what they need to know. I actually like this prologue a lot. Well, yes, a lot of it is just PNGs. I really love the glass pane style artwork they went with. Makes me feel like I'm experiencing an old legend. My actual problem with it is the editing. It's bizarre. There's this bit where it transitions to a 3D recreation of Kai meeting Dizzy, which looks great, but wow, did I forget just how bad Dizzy's original design was. What the hell were they thinking? This does not fit her at all. So it goes from an annoying freeze frame of Dizzy with the narrator expositing who she is, to a nicely done cut-in of Kai to bring us back to reality, and after he speaks one line, it goes back to the glass panes. Like, why not just commit to the 3D style for this scene, and then go back to the glass pane style for Dizzy walking away? And then there's these 3 PNGs of Necro, Dizzy, and Kai flashing for like 30 seconds, it's very funny. The rest of the series' editing is really solid. Why is this bit so all over the place? It's also bizarre that they don't go over how the Crusades ended. The summary kind of implies it ended when Kai fell in love with Dizzy and made Sin, but that's just not even close to what happened. Justice isn't even acknowledged, which is insane. I know all the lore, so I can fill in the gaps fine, and to be fair, the story is about the Keith's kid, so explaining the history of the family was the most important thing, which they do fine. But outside of that, I think Dual Rulers objectively fails at catching up new viewers in its first episode. It's so weird. They put a lot of effort into explaining previous parts of the lore and who these characters are, to the point where it gets very annoying and intrusive with these freeze frame into name cut-ins with the narrator over expositing. But it still ultimately feels like it expects you to already know what happened previously. I know this sounds like nitpicking, because this is a thing that's just fine if you're a Guilty Gear fan, but this show is marketed towards the newer fans. Hell, it's even called Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers. It's a criticism that has to be acknowledged. And then there's the opening. It's a resounding alright. I think the animation style of it is pretty awesome, and I think it foreshadows the relationships in Unica in a really cool way with this massive gear flash. That's a cute touch when you realize what it's about. But the song is just so mid. It's kind of shocking that it didn't actually end up in the game, but I'm not missing anything by it not being there. After that, we get the first scene of Soul and Sin in the series. They're dealing with a very angry bear. There's a cut-in with Mr. Bad Guy explaining who he is and what his relationship is with Sin, and this is what I mean by the show expecting you to know the lore already. If you don't know about Overture, you have no idea how these two met or that Soul was also a hero in the Crusades. This is basic stuff the show just had to cram in a super clunky and pace-breaking way due to it being 8 episodes. I know it's very low budget, but I wish it was 12 instead so we could have had a more thorough episode expositing who these characters are and what their deal is. That cutting aside, I really enjoyed this scene. It establishes Soul and Sin's dynamic student and master really well, they're both written in character, and it's animated very nicely. Let nothing take away from the fact that the scenes in Dual Rulers that are animated super well. I love its use of traditionally 2D animation techniques like cut-ins, hopping between frame rates, and speed lines in a 3D space. This little cut of Sin hopping across the pond especially was adorable. Establishes so much about his carefree and energetic attitude in like 2 seconds. And then there's this super dramatic low-lighting slow-motion run into a Looney Tunes-esque scene where Sin runs up the bear to trick it into running off a cliff. It even comes complete with sound effects. It makes me chuckle every time. Look at its stupid little dive into the tree, oh my god. Also really enjoy the music that plays here. Unfortunately, as far as I know, Dual Rulers soundtrack was never released besides the opening and ending, which sucks because there are legit a lot of good tracks in this show. I'd have it playing in the background if I could. The scene ends with Sin about to burn down the whole forest with an RTL, and then ultimately leaving the bear alone after finding out it's a mother just trying to protect its cubs. I really like this too. It establishes Sin's care for the little things and his desire to see other perspectives, as well as his maturity when he says, look, yeah, maybe it wasn't the right choice. Also, voice acting throughout the show is spectacular. I am a little disappointed there's no English dub because I do enjoy a lot of these characters' voices in English just as much as I do Japanese. But Joji Nakata's iconic, buttery smooth voice for Frederick Badman. And Issei Miyazaki's spectacular youthful energy for Sin are both a joy to listen to throughout. Next up, the thing all the trailers were built around, the Kisk's wedding. This is the second goal of episode 1, establish the stakes of the series as well as the motivation of its antagonists. I also like the segment a lot. Johnny's appearance really made me smile. I love this pirate in his big, dumb, stupid hat. And Norio Wakamoto is straight up one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. As the former guardian of Dizzy, it makes complete sense for him to be here, to celebrate his former crewmate getting married. And this is the first of like 5 Testament mentions the show gets. I will come back to this later because I think their absence from the show robbed us of a really interesting dynamic, but I'm also biased as they're just one of my favorite fictional characters ever. For now, I'll just say it's baffling that they didn't show up here. That's Dizzy's best friend! They'd be whatever the envy turn for the Maid of Honor is. This is also the scene where Nerval is introduced, and bizarrely, he's 2D animated? I have absolutely no idea why. He gets a 3D model in every other episode. Nerval is the antagonist everyone thought he would be, a ridiculously racist American there purely to stir shit at the wedding and set up Dizzy nearly going berserk. By this point, there's not much depth to him, but I will come back to him later because I think by the end of the series, he's a very solid antagonist. Halfway through the episode now, and we have our introduction to Unica, who's called out by Big J by virtue of him knowing every woman to ever exist. She initially had powers I never would have expected, nor are ever explained. I like to think these big teethed worm things are kind of like her version of Necro and Undyne, or Testament Succubus. A sort of gear symbiotic defense system. They're neat and good minions for the cast to fight, but I just have no idea why she has them. They're also like gone by episode 3 and they're not even in the game, so who really gives a shit. Her actual weapon, the AC/43, is just way cooler. I mentioned in my best animation video that the attention to detail and level of working parts to animate this thing are sublime, and it's no different here. This initial shot of it opening up and firing is great. She shoots Dizzy, and the Queen gets a magical girl transformation into her exit outfit. Which is interesting. The show was likely being made alongside Queen Dizzy's development, and I think by this point in the timeline she's also not Queen. But still, it's the Strive anime. Interesting that she's in her far, far worse design. She then proceeds to do absolutely nothing as Unica and Kai have a neat little fight. Nothing special, but I like the reference to his 5H and creative use of Stun Edge. Yunica hypocritically attacks a bunch of innocent people as she proclaims her goals. Genocide! Something she tends to do quite a bit in the first half of the show. Literally like 90% of her dialogue is about killing gears and the end of the world. Up until her eventual redemption arc, Yunica is a pretty frustrating and very one-note character. She has two traits, genocidal maniac and sad. I really love this little cut-in she gets with the two sides of her closing in on Kai. It's very silly, but as someone who enjoys editing, I think it's pretty creative and cute. While the two are fighting, Johnny for some reason gains the power of Shulk Xenoblade and sees a vision of Dizzy going berserk. I don't know how he did this, and as far as I know, he's never had this ability before, and it never happens again. Can this narrator fuck off? Yunica nearly succeeds in her goal of making Dizzy kill hundreds of people with a very interestingly colored attack, before her White Knight in shining armor comes to save the day. I love this speed-lined animation of him coming to save her. It has so much weight behind it, and the sharper lines across his determined face contrast really well with the softer lines as they embrace each other. And then Kai locks them both in the crystal. I really thought the big hug would have been enough to make Necro calm down, but yeah, nah, they're just written out the show. Sin shows up in time to see his parents locked away and has a bit of a squabble with Yunica. He's dispatched really easily, but look at how well animated this beak driver is, oh my god. Every strike Sin gives in this one-sided assault has so much juice behind it. The kid is fighting to kill here. Johnny tries to stop her, but Yunica just sprouts some wings and flies away. Another trait she likely inherited from her mother, and another thing I'm shocked isn't in the game. Yunica spouts more racism all over the world via the television, explaining her goals again, before cutting to the White House for one of the series' more prevalent characters, President Vernon. He discusses with the forever stuck in the TV dimension Leo Whitefang about what to do next and how to protect Dizzy and Kai, which introduces the Valentines into the show. And these two don't get a big, annoying, stupid cut-in from the narrator about who they are and what their deal is. They just have their names played across the screen and let their dialogue and body language speak for them, which is something I just wish the series did more. These two have some of my favorite models in the series. Elfard's big, stupid bug eyes and Ramlethal's adorable, squishable face. They look amazing. Most of the models in this show do, actually, with some outliers like Django. I just haven't found a place to talk about them. Sol and Yunica especially are standouts. They look amazing. We cut to Sin running back to his grandfather's place to tell him the bad news, to which Sol responds with, "Cunt, you were there for Overture, they're fine." The tension is immediately dispelled with the appearance of Wife and Emil. I really like Jacko's big grandma talking to Sin here, calming him down and getting him to think before immediately taking on Yunica. So of course he immediately goes and takes on Yunica with Sol in tow. With her sad expression in mind, they go off together to find out what her actual reason for genocide is as the two ride off into the sunset on the Firewheel Mark II. The episode ends on a phenomenally stylized shot of Baiken, setting the scene for her to also join the fray. Turns out, she's been hired by the US government to hunt down Yunica. Now, I get why she's here. Money. The answer is money. She's one of the series' most recognizable characters. But from a story perspective, this makes no fucking sense. Vernon, you have someone under your employ who has the title Superpowered Secret Service Agent. Where the hell is she? On holiday back in Brazil? Then where's the Secretary of Absolute Defense? This is a big nitpick, of course. I don't have a problem with Baiken being here, but I feel like you could have taken a way more interesting approach with her. She's someone who moved on from her desire for revenge, and seeing someone clearly troubled with their motivations could have been enough for her to join the fray. Her just being a bounty hunter who, spoilers, doesn't really contribute much to the plot or to the fights is a lot more boring. Oh yeah, the ending. It's the exact opposite of the opening for me. I think visually it's very boring, if a solid exploration of Yunica and her arc, but the song is amazing. I've listened to it pretty often even after the series ended. Okay, Jesus Christ, I had way more to say about this episode than I thought I would, oh my god. I thought Ceremony was ultimately a pretty solid, if flawed, first episode. While I think it totally failed at catching new viewers up, I think it set up the character dynamics, stakes, and motivations of everyone very well. While the constant cut-ins of the narrator are super fucking annoying and the pacing definitely could have been a bit tighter, like we rush into Unica's attack almost as soon as Nerval's done talking, the animation and voice acting are all super good. When I watched this for the first time, I thought pretty much everything I thought now. My rating from then still hasn't changed. I'd give episode 1 a 6 out of 10. An effective start to the series that has got off to the races really quick and left me wondering what will come next. I'll have a lot less to say about Belief in Peace, as it has way less to establish and more to expand on instead. The first half of it is just MacGuffin hunting. It begins with Sol and Sin driving through a desert, and pretty much every scene where it's just Oyaji and the ever-growing wild boy talking, I really enjoy. I love their dynamic. Sol's description of the Crusades and people's feelings towards Gears is a really nice, subtle, easy-to-infer piece of dialogue delivered with a grim detachment spectacularly by Nakata. Then all that subtlety is immediately thrown out the window with a pointless cut-in from the narrator. Oh my god, what is the point? I do like that they also bring into question whether Soul still has it after losing the Flame of Corruption. Adds a bit of tension and makes his eventual first fight even more impactful. It then cuts to Vernon with this episode's MacGuffin, a key that is to be presented at the end of War Commemoration and has the power to eradicate all gears. Why the hell has it stuck around this long? I don't know. This key pretty much just exists to be stolen by Unica. It's a decent setup to get Sin and Unica to meet up again. At this festival, we get the series' first appearance of Bridget and its only appearance of Roger. Seriously, this is the only scene her bear is in. It's very cute, I like the music that plays, very reminiscent of her XX theme. I think it's one of the only times we actually get to see her perform in the entire Guilty Gear series as well. Festival starts, Unica appears, apparently she can also turn invisible. At this point, what on earth can she do? And Sin and Soul rush to the arena via flying out of an airplane on a motorcycle. That just fucking rules. Unica manages to steal the key from Vernon and goes to make her escape as Soul and Sin land, immediately taking it back from her. And at this point, the rest of the episode is just one big long fight, and it is a really good one. There's also a subplot of a kid being trapped inside, so Bridget has something to do. That's the last time I'll bring it up because I think that subplot is kind of pointless and just exists to fill time. Despite the Flame of Corruption being gone, Soul's more than made up for it with a bunch of new doohickeys he's been developing during his time in retirement. He's got bombs, he's got a superpowered glove, and he's got an even more juiced up Outrage, which he debuts in probably the most iconic shot in the entire show. An unapologetic Freddie Mercury reference. Yeah, Unk still got it. Soul, now weakened from his fight with Unica's weird black snake things, sends Sin after her instead. And this is the best fight from an animation standpoint in the entire series, by far. Not just in Dual Rulers, but in all of Guilty Gear. A girl who has given up all hope from the future versus a boy who has nothing but hope for the future. The music's great, the animation's awesome, the choreography is creative, the cuts are really well placed. I've rewatched it so much and just not gotten sick of it. This shot of them running at the speed of sound into the Dragon Ball-like punch rush is so sick, and establishes their similar skill set and connection really well. Then there's a not at all subtle foreshadowing vision into the Unica install to end it on a high note, with this just amazing one-shot of them fighting up the tower into a devastating slam by Unica. The fight is then cut short by the interruption of Baiken. Not gonna lie, popped off for the tatami the first time it appeared. Unica creates another smokescreen and runs away with the key. I like this fight a lot. After Unica kicked Sin's ass due to him being unfocused, this puts them on a more even playing field and establishes why they would be throughout the fight. It's great. The falling action of this episode is solid. Sets up Noble as the mastermind, reveals that he's apparently Unica's father, which, like, come on, who actually believes that? Get to see the Valentines kicking ass in a well-animated, fun little sequence. Then there's Sin's resolve to figuring out why Unica is doing what she's doing. I really like the contrast between Baiken talking him down for being naive and Soul's support for his grandson. But I wish this got a bit more room to breathe. Let the characters talk. It's a consequence of the show's short amount of episodes that we can't have Sin and Baiken have a proper conversation about the consequences of giving Unica mercy and the debate that would come from that. And while I don't have too much of a problem with the pacing of this episode, it's defo a problem that arises more and more as the series goes on. And finally, the big reveal of this episode. Axel Lowe trapped in the contraption. What the fuck is he doing here? Where the fuck is he? Is that hell? Why the hell is he in hell? None of these questions are answered until nearly the end of the series. Like, they just revealed this and did nothing with it until the end. You think Soul would have tried to find him to ask him about this and that would be their next part to take. But nah, he's just stuck there for almost the entirety of the series. I remember everyone's reaction to him just being revealed there. God, it was funny. Dual Rulers Episode 2 is a considerable step up from Episode 1. It's paced way better, minus Bridget's pointless subplot, which truthfully isn't even that invasive, it's just unneeded. And has some really great animation, as well as effectively connecting Unica to Sin through a fight I loved. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. So, Soaring Angel begins with Unica using the key to do something. Presumably terrorism, as she's taken over a satellite with the key she stole from the ceremony. Following on from last episode where Ellen Ram just dispatched a bunch of soldiers trying to, I think, break the keys out, the two analyzed the bombs the soldiers brought with them, and Elfeld is sent off to go and investigate and catch the people trying to grab the newlyweds. This is the B-plot of this episode, and despite the fact I don't like this pink fuck much at all, I think unlike Bridget's, this is a solid addition. It adds to the mystery of the show and moves the plot forward in a satisfying way. Meanwhile, an anti-gear protest goes on. There's this soldier about to shoot one of the protesters for some reason. I legit could not tell you why. It's the United States, I guess. Does have this super fun Jacko sequence though. She's animated like a Looney Tunes character here, it's adorable. Elfelt calls Jacko. They're both investigating the attacks on the Keist and the ceremony, and discuss their findings with each other and some other Guilty Gear cameos. Hope you like your crumbs, Faster Delilah fans, because this is the only frame you'll get. Elfelt then gets attacked on name cutting and narration. Every one of these is unneeded, but this one especially wasn't, as we've seen what she's like through her fights, actions, her doing a stupid silly little dance, and we know her name. Outside of that, I love how the scene is edited. The cut-ins are super well placed, and the transitions used are all really cute. Haven't mentioned it yet, but every scene Elfelt's in, she's animated very expressively and with a lot of energy. Big fan of how every Valentine sister is portrayed in this series. Cut back to Sol and Sin, and I really love the device Sol created to track Unica. He noticed an odd electromagnetic wave Unica shot and used his knowledge of old technology, because he's the world's biggest unk, to track her sword. That's smart, and a really nice piece of character establishment, foreshadowing, and world building. Then the quote-unquote US president comes to pick them up, and they immediately drive away. Love that Sol immediately knows that's bullshit and not the kind of way Vernon rolls. The chase that follows is pretty boring, very undynamic. Do love the ending of Sol catching the Firewheel Mark II in between a mountain, that's cool. Sol's hunch is correct, as it isn't the US president coming to pick them up, but tie her to a train track McGee over here. This shot of Frederick holding his nephew up like a cat to keep him away from the food is so precious. I really like the dichotomy between the two here. Sol's body language is fed up and annoyed, while Sin's is upright and attentive, trying to pretend to understand the conversation and contribute to it. And him just asking Nerval, so what's it like to be racist? Fucking killed me. I love this kid. There is no thought behind those eyes. But how the hell does he not know what a handshake is? Sin's not that dumb. I don't really like his characterization here. He's always been a bit gullible, and it's easy to forget he's 5 after how he acts in Overture. But I don't think he'd be stupid enough to take Nerval at his word here. He still wants you dead, mate. There's no remorse behind those eyes like Unica's. Quick check-in back on Elfelt's subplot. She's come across an abandoned laboratory with a bunch of dead scientists. Yeah, this looks like it could lead to something. Then she gets fucking nuked. Yeah, that's a way to do a tone shift. Jesus Christ. Not a minute earlier, she was prancing and dancing around, and the next, the hammer of God comes down upon her. I will admit, I'm not Elfelt's biggest fan, so this made me very happy, but more importantly, I think it leads super well into the next scene. Sol and Sin arrive at a city ravaged by the Crusades. Not much to find here but weary souls, corpses, and rubble. It's an awesome setting, I think. Really drives home just how apocalyptic the Crusades were without an annoying fuck-off cut-in. It's there to make you reconsider Nerval's point about the Crusades and their effect on the world. Not to say he has any kind of a good point. We, the audience, know the Crusades happened due to humanity's hubris, but obviously we don't want them happening again. Regardless, it also lets you see the good of the remaining years. An old man who recognized Sol from the Order of Holy Knights invites the two in and thanks him for putting an end to it. I love the expression on his face here, just one of tired indifference. The old man directs them to where Unica was last seen, and they leave, with Sin promising not to hurt the angel, only to talk to her. Sol explains Sin's lineage as a command-type gear, and I gotta give props again to Joji Nakata. When Sin asks if he could control the dead gear on the tower, the line here is delivered with an extremely firm gruffness laced with trauma from what he had to do to stop the Crusades. Anyways, Unica's threatening to nuke Illyria like she did to El, so they gotta get to her quick. Leo and Vernon agree to immediately evacuate all of Illyria after seeing the demonstration done on Pinky. Always like scenes like this so you don't have to be wondering about all the potential deaths.
Good lord, the lungs on that boy.
Unica versus Sin round 2! Or 3, technically, but I don't count that first meeting. Sin tries to talk and calm her down, but those negotiations break down instantly when Sin mentions he's a gear who can stop the Crusades. Unica's PTSD kicks in as soon as he mentions that, and she swings for the fences. It's another very well animated sequence. It's not as good as their first, it's just got way less to it, but what it loses in crazy anime action, it makes up for in emotion. This fight is more about Sin fighting against the idea that people have to die. Even after Unica crashes warships into people while spouting anti-gear propaganda, and after he jumps in front of bullets for her, he's still trying to talk her out of it. Connect with her, be there for her, and help her see another way out. Look at him by the end of it, fucking covered in scrapes and bruises and blood. He looks like he's fought a war. Unfortunately for the ever-growing wild boy, she can't see another way. Her past haunts her too much. So instead, Soul Bad Guy comes in with his Soul Bad gun and shoots her through the fucking chest. Holy shit, this episode is brutal. Unica falls and Sin jumps after her, using his powers as a command-type gear to wake the beast and break their fall. The people are in obvious distress because of this, and who else but Nerval's anti-gear army comes in to break things up. Thankfully for them, Biken and Johnny are there to stop them from killing anyone. and Johnny confirms for some reason that Baikon's married. The fuck? To who? Argy, right? Is it a my boyfriend, his boyfriend kind of sitch? Anyway, the gals fuck off almost immediately. I remember watching this for the first time and thinking Baikon just took Unica and ran. But instead, in a post-credit scene, an incredibly injured Unica meets a certain blonde British woman. Episode 3 was once again very solid. While not as packed as episode 2, I think it's probably the best paced episode in the entire series. Elfeld's B-plot moves things along in a great way while not feeling invasive at all. In fact, it really adds to the tension and tone this episode aims to build. The show gets darker and darker from here on out, and that initial nuke was the perfect way to shift it. Love that they immediately have the two titular characters meet again, and this episode deepens their bond strongly. But my favorite part was easily Sol. His responses to everything happening around him were perfect. Dude's here to get shit done, and if Sing can't do it the way he wants to, he'll do it the way it needs to be. Animation throughout was once again very good, even if there's less going on. The editing and visual compositing is great throughout. 7.5 out of 10. Episode 4, King of Gears, is very easily the worst episode of the entire series. Does have some scenes I like, but it's for the most part just a recap of the past 3 episodes. Like, the first 3 minutes is just a bunch of shit we already know. It begins with a brief recap of the Crusade, which I did mention in episode 1 was needed, but this is just telling us Sol's role in it, which the last episode literally just did, with no annoying narration either. Then it's just Sin Unica round 2 again into an injured Unica waking up to see Bridget stitching her jacket. Despite her nearly killing the child she was trying to save at the festival, she's still helping her, for some reason. Alright. Don't know why she isn't pressing her on the terror stacks, but this is the part of the episode I do like. While this absolutely could and should have had more time dedicated to it, seriously, it's only like 4 minutes total, that's insanity. I think their interactions in Strive make up more time. The content of those minutes are still really good. But before that, the next, no joke, 5 fucking minutes are dedicated to recapping the past 3 episodes via Vernon and T's The Screen Layer discussing past events. What the hell was the point of this? Nothing is revealed and valuable time is completely wasted. Neither of these two have much relevance to the plot at all, so why are we wasting time that could be dedicated to, like, Unica developing, Sin contemplating his failure, or Baikon and Johnny doing whatever the fuck? Instead, it's these two chucklefucks creating a file titled Shit We Already Know. This series is not long enough to be doing this. It also just annihilates the pacing. It's almost 8 minutes and a 22-minute episode dedicating to just recapping the past 3. Anyways, Unica sees Bridget naked, and that's enough for her to stop being the most racist woman alive. Shoutouts to gay people. I kid, I like the scene a lot. Like the rest of the show, it's gorgeous. I haven't mentioned it yet, but the lighting is always on point. We finally get to see Unica display an emotion that isn't just rage or I'm sad that I'm going to kill people. We get to see her struggle with her first big failure, and Bridget's response about her failure as a bounty hunter is class. Here's the thing though, this isn't a problem with Unica and Bridget's dynamic or the scene, but I really do reckon these interactions would have been so much more interesting if Testament was the one who met Unica. I promise this isn't just favorite character bias, and I understand why Bridget was chosen. Money. But Testament from a narrative standpoint would have just made a lot more sense. They are absolutely the kind of person to stitch up a random weary soul, especially if they're like them, which would have been another solid bit of foreshadowing for the most obvious twist ever, and they would have had so much more to discuss beyond Unica's failure. Testament has A, killed a lot of people under order from a maniac, B, are a gear, and C, are now living a quiet, peaceful life despite those previous things. I called attention to the fact that a lot of this show has this debate over whether gears should have the lives they have despite their previous lives of weapons of mass destruction. And Testament stitching up Unica and talking to them about their past experiences and what they're doing now would have been a great beginning step for Unica to reevaluate what she's currently doing. Would make her fourth meeting with Sin after meeting another gear who is shown to be more than what they were made for more dramatic as well. Her internal struggle would be a lot more pronounced. I don't know, what we got is still completely fine and good, there just should have been more to it. 8 minutes of recaps, dude, I'm not letting that go. Anyways, very solid transition to Sin waking up from his big sleep from the shared trauma of Unica getting shot. This is another very solid scene, and exactly what I wanted to see after he almost doomed a bunch of people to getting eaten by a gear. The immediate reflection on what Sol said to him, and the maturity in realizing just how quickly he fucked it all up and went about it the wrong way. The ensuing scene with Johnny is hilarious. Kind of the inverse to Bridget's more gentle way of dealing with Unica's feelings. Johnny's loud charisma distracts Sin from the feelings he has, while also reassuring him that not all of it was in vain. Illyria's still around. Scenes like this are why I actually really enjoy Johnny's inclusion in Dual Rulers. Feels like he always has something to contribute, and he has chemistry with, like, everyone in the show. Big J sends Sin on his way to Soul, and the two have a heart-to-heart in a field. This was short, cute, and what it needed to be. Soul is never going to be that mad at his grandson. As soon as Sin admits he's done wrong, they move on from it. They go back to the hotel, and holy shit, Dr. Paradigm! I was not expecting to see him when I was first watching this series. This was a lovely surprise. It's almost the entire Overture gang back. There's just one guy missing. Forgot his name, though. Nah, it doesn't matter, so did Arcsys. I've always fucked with this dragon and his constant lore drops. Elfot's alive, god damn it! I think she found like some spit or something that they then analyzed to find out it's a virus to control one specific kind of gear. I do wonder what that could be. Well, good news, you don't have to wonder for too long, because the next thing makes it very clear it's for the command-type gears left, namely Sin and Dizzy. Sin rejects the responsibility of being the titular character after his previous failure, but the bird tells him about all the anti-gear movements that have popped up since Unica's attacks. Despite them all being terroristic in nature, the people remember the Crusades, and the attention called to them has sprung anti-gear sentiment back to like we saw in episode 2. This is the most this aspect of the series is focused on. Real X-Men vibes here, with Paradigm suggesting fighting for the rights of gears to exist rather than quiet negotiations. Love Soul's reaction here too. Sin's just been through a very traumatic experience. Let him chill. Jacko calls Vonum and tells him about their findings, and they trace the records to who else but racist McRatface here. I love how the show treats it as such a big reveal, but his face screams, "Hi, my name's Sherlock, first name no shit. Who the fuck didn't call this? Look at the fucking guy." Soul's reaction is what really kills me. He's like, yeah, obviously, how'd he get to this point though? Which is a question I was asking myself. Also revealed that Unica is from the future here, which again was super obvious, but given how the Nerval reveal was given this super bombastic music and multiple reaction shots, I'm surprised this wasn't treated with more reverence. Also really like that Jacko is the one to reveal this. She's one of the Backyard's most advanced creations, one of the smartest beings in the verse along with Soul. Finally, there's the post-credits scene, and this is probably my favorite scene in the whole show. As a trans person, it's hard to find a mainstream rep as well thought out and developed as Bridget. And this conversation about her shape hit really hard as someone who went through a similar experience as her. Visually, it's spectacular. This one shot of the many Bridgets with the one in the middle signifying she hasn't figured it out at that point, it's gorgeous. And the waves when she's talking about her experiences, trying to figure out who she is, and finally her holding her symbol signifying she's at a point she's happy with who she is, well, Unica's hand is empty. Finding out who and what you are is really, really hard. It's a long journey of talking, experimenting, and trying out many new things while running into so many walls along the way. And it's a journey that never really stops. We're always discovering new things about ourselves, whether that be gender, identity, sexuality, personality, or whatever else. But when you're at a point where you're satisfied with who you are, when every shape clicks into place even for a bit, there's no better feeling. I'm personally non-binary, and my experience is different from everyone else, but I think everyone can relate to some part of this really great monologue. While I still do think Testament would be far more interesting both narratively and thematically, I'm really happy this scene was included in the show, and I feel like it almost justified Bridget's inclusion. Unfortunately, despite that, this episode gets a 4. I just cannot look past the frustrating amount of recapping and exposition despite really loving the character interactions included in this episode. I feel almost all of them are too short and needed more time dedicated to them. Sin never stopped struggling internally, but I wish we got more time focusing on that, or just more than 4 minutes of Unica and Bridget talking about what she's done. Like, we don't even see Bridget press her on why she keeps blowing shit up and attacking innocents in a pursuit of genocide. That would have been a very worthwhile conversation to have. She kind of just exists to put Unica on the right track and be nothing but kind to her, which is like, fine, I really do like their interactions, but to say it one more time, they needed more. The lack of screen time they have together leads to Unica's arc feeling really rushed and underbaked. Like, there's a reason the Bridget being naked fixed Unica became such a meme. That's probably their most prevalent moment together. I like this show more than most, but the pacing issues are really starting to become more apparent. King's Decision actually fucking bangs. Easily the best episode in this series. It's got stakes, it's got good development, Nerval has a shockingly great backstory, the animation's great. I really wish the follow-up to it was better because in isolation, this is delightful. The episode begins with said King's Decision. Sin affirms his resolve to have humans and gears walk together, setting himself up as the Professor X to Paradigm's Magneto, which feels insane to say about a 5-year-old. Though, unlike Magneto, the Dragon respects his decision, and Soul affirms that if Sin ever goes out of line, he'll kick his head in to put him on the right path. Meanwhile, Vernon, Jacko, and Leo plan their next move against Nerval, planning to blindside him at his fucking Dracula estate. Damn, this place is gigantic. After that, that's my favorite part of the episode, Nerval's backstory. When I first saw this guy, I really expected nothing out of him beyond being an evil McEvil face. Didn't expect an interesting motivation or even some added lore. I don't think anyone did. He's just a guy that would be there for Sin and the gang to defeat. I'm still shocked at how much depth these next 4 minutes give him. He's ultimately one note and made to be despised, but his reasons for fighting against Gears being based on PTSD and radicalization from the Crusades, as well as envy of the Holy Knights rather than just plain racism, makes his goals far more interesting. He's got a savior complex, and when the higher-ups didn't feed into that, he decided to dig himself even deeper into the gear-hating hole. And when the Crusades ended without the genocide of Gears, he thought he was the only one seeing sense. Thousands died, why are they still allowed to roam free? It's all summed up in these 2 lines from this monologue. Nerval went from a man wanting to help in the efforts of the Crusades to a man completely blinded by delusions of grandeur, and I think that's a pretty awesome topic to dive into. It's a story about extreme radicalization and how that pushes people to do these extremely wrong things, treated with just enough time and all the weight it deserves. Not to say Nerval is my favorite antagonist to even come out of Guilty Gear, that's probably still Justice, but I would go as far as to say he's legitimately underrated. But this is the only time he's treated as anything more than an evil McEvil face. But continuing with the flashback, Unica comes from the future to affirm Nerval on his delusions of grandeur. Everything is in ruin due to a failed gear virus future Nerval developed, and only he, Unica, and a few others can fix it. Nerval is overjoyed to hear this, ignoring the fact that he literally caused the end of the world. Second genocide lucky! She'll be right, you're a god! The savior of mankind! In the present, Unica returns to Nerval's estate while the gang prepares to bum rush it. Unica expresses immense regret over the fact that the gear virus will likely involve the death of many innocent people, finally voicing her concerns to her father. Nerval manipulates her again. He apologizes for making her threaten to blow up the world's biggest city and praises her work. That said, I do like to think present Nerval seems to genuinely care about Unica at least a little bit. I think it gives him a bit more depth. After all, she is the one who confirmed his delusions and bumped his ego by about 1 billion times. Before the conversation can go any deeper, Soul and Sin break down the door and Nerval triggers her PTSD and she dons her mask. Something cool I only noticed on this watch is that Unica is only vulnerable when her mask is off. Whenever she needs to lock in on a fight or do something she knows she'll regret, she is literally masking. Cute little bit of visual storytelling. Yeah, that ruled. I really don't like how this scene is lit at all. First time it's been distractingly dark in the show. Unica vs. Sin Round 2 had a similar color palette, but it was contrasted really well with the setting and stakes of that fight. It wasn't distracting at all. Here, Nerval just really needs to pay his power bill. But the animation is really solid once again, especially love the shot of Viking kicking ass. And literally every time Sin and Unica clash, it's gorgeous. And then Nerval tries to shoot Sin with a gun. What is it with this show and that? Once again, this show is for the most part edited phenomenally. The tension build up here with Unica's wild red clashes against Sin, the progressive zoom-ins on the gun, then Sin, then Nerval's eye focusing with rage, then the shot. Before Soul thankfully cuts the tension with this sweet piece of camera work. But it's not over yet. Nerval laughs maniacally and Sin starts tweaking as it's revealed the virus was injected days ago. And with this just fucking spectacularly animated blast, the Tyrant King of Gears is born via a virus made to end all of his kind. And then my favorite character dies an incredibly brutal death. Oh my god. This is like the 3rd time they've carked it in canon. Love the inclusion of him here to really sell the impact of what Nerval's done. Seeing a character you love get done like this makes the scene really work. This entire bit is great, really. It's wonderfully animated and treated with all the impact the most pivotal moment in the show deserves. Speaking of, the name of the show now makes sense as Unica is revealed to be another command-type gear. She is what she hated the most. Seems like they learned from their mistakes of Nerval being revealed as the big bad because Unica's reveal isn't treated as a gigantic bomb drop. Because, like, no shit, she's Sin's sister. It's practically revealed in episode 2 with these weird-ass flash-forwards. Instead, they focus on the 2 titular characters' relationship. Sin, in his last moments of conscious sanity, begs Unica not to give out, reaching out his hand and begging her not to die. Unica's resolve holds true as she reaches back and begs him to live. These conflicting commands cause the virus to go haywire, and the future repeats itself, as gears everywhere start to go berserk. Sure, that makes enough sense. I'll believe it. And then future Neville appears and instantly fucking eats present Nerval. What the fuck, cunt? I remember watching this for the first time and replaying this shot like twice. I feel like we missed a beat here. When did we go full horror? Look at Nerval's face here. Jesus Christ. This is just treated as a footnote, but it completely establishes just how insanely more evil future Nerval is. Dude is completely ruthless. Not even himself can get in his way. At least present Nerval said please when she asks Unica to kill herself. Future Nerval just goes, mate, I'm God. You should be honored to be killing yourself for me. I haven't mentioned his voice actor, Yasuhiro Mamiya, yet, but he has been killing it the entire show. That entire monologue about Nerval's past hits so hard in no small part due to his stellar work. But I really adore just how much deeper his voice goes for future Nerval. Present sounded happily psychotic, so overjoyed for his plans of genocide to come to fruition after so much failure. He's on a power trip the whole show, while Future sounds completely disconnected, so done with both gears and humans. だが気づいたのだ。人という種も弱く愚かで不完全であると。He's waited too long to sit on his throne of bones and blood. He's just here to get it over with. The two most powerful gears left, Sin and Unica, are already going berserk thanks to the virus. There's no reason left in their eyes, just carnage. And this is happening to every gear in the world. In an instant, Sin takes down Johnny, Baiken, Jacko, and Soul. The Second Crusades have begun. The accursed King of Gears is born. Sin Kisk. Long may he reign. Episode 5 gets a 9 out of 10 for all the reasons I listed at the start. Animation is even better than I remember, every big moment and reveal in this episode is treated with the weight needed and deserved, and Nerval's revealed to be a surprisingly well-written antagonist for this episode and this episode alone. I'm genuinely shocked at how much I'm enjoying this rewatch. Unfortunately though... Emissary from the future is where Dual Rulers really starts to fall apart. It's very evident that this anime did not have enough time to fully flesh out its ideas, and the consequences of its breakneck pacing come to a head in the first 10 minutes of the episode. The accursed King of Gears' reign was as glorious as it was long. It was very short. We'll get to that in a moment though, because the show just remembered Axel Lowe exists! Yeah! That guy! The one trapped in the contraption from episode 2. You remember Axel Lowe? Soul said he knew a guy. God, but he's been here the whole time. Axel Lowe. We get to see his first ever time hop. This was actually pretty awesome. As far as I know, it's never been shown in any other part of Gear lore. He was literally just having his morning coffee when suddenly the Brits transported to 16th century Japan. Fuck, I know it's because they don't have the budget, but the incredibly expressively animated blonde boy contrasted by the PNGs of angry Japanese soldiers is very funny. Really cute little scene, and a great introduction to the kind of guy Axel is. A total fish out of water, forever stuck in a situation far beyond his capabilities or understanding. Back in the present, everything is on fucking fire. Sin is carrying out Nerval's judgment worldwide. Vernon prepares to do what Asuka had to do years ago and nuke Sin's location and the surrounding area to stop the Second Crusades from happening. But buys time for Soul to potentially stop him. I just adore how Sin is animated here. This part had a budget. The elongated fingers, spiked up hair, low-angled shots to really put emphasis on how deformed he currently is. He's a pure monster in the state he's in, but still a bit of the ever-growing wild boy left. His sheer willpower is holding the effects of the virus and the command-type gear's botched order back. A flashback sequence occurs, of Kai and Dizzy handing off Sin to Soul. God damn, this model of Soul looks phenomenal. Legitimately might be my favorite look of the character ever. This or story exit Soul. In that flashback, it's revealed that the bad man has another goddamn gun on him, meant specifically to stop human gear hybrids. He stands defiantly with the junkyard dog, prepared to do anything to save the world, even at the cost of those most precious to him. He calls to Sin, and the look in Sin's eyes confirms what Soul has to do. God damn, just look at his face here. regret, fear, and so many other emotions baked into this one close-up of him pulling the trigger. Sin's down. This entire scene is fantastic. It's an amazing moment built through many years of story that hits despite everything. But man, is Sin's crowning as the accursed King of Gears underwhelming. This entire transformation deserved a whole episode of everyone fighting him, trying to get him back to his senses while Sin fights the virus. Instead, it's Overture all over again. Sin goes berserk for all of 5 minutes, and then Soul beats him up a bit, and it's over. Easily my biggest disappointment from this show. Even with only 8 episodes, you could have absolutely dedicated an episode to this, and then the last 2 to Nerval instead. Have Soul shooting him be the ending shot. Could you imagine that cliffhanger? I try my best not to focus too much on what could have been, Testament notwithstanding, but it's just impossible to here. The Tyrant King of Gears should have been the final boss. Nerval's played his role, and instead of being replaced by the child he infected with the genocide virus, he's replaced by just another version of himself. We could have had Sin versus Unica, but Unica's on the right side this time. Finally get a Sin versus Kai fight, or even just more build up to Soul shooting his surrogate son. I just really wish we got a flashback to him being crowned the Guilty Gear after killing Justice the first time for the parallel. I'm just going to take the episode as it is after this, because I actually like the final 2 episodes well enough, but goddamn, dude. What a waste. So the Nerval's up. If Gears won't bring the end of the world, he'll have to do it himself, with the power of the casual anomaly. At some point, for some reason that's never explained, maybe he was forcibly pulled there, Axel was brought to the future Unica's from where Dizzy and Sin destroyed the world. He is immediately drugged and then put in a contraption for future Nerval's use. Ollie Dog was pissed about this, oh my god. His favorite character shows up, has one good scene, and then is immediately back to being benched. That's rough, buddy. Unica is kicked aside and disowned by future Nerval, calls her a disgusting abomination, and is about to kill her, but she is protected by the actually still alive and still very, very angry Sin Kisk. Turns out, all the bullet did was just burn through all of Sin's protective magic and incinerated the virus. Alright, sure. The gang prepares to kill Nerval, but he rips off his skin and becomes this weird fucking thing. That's unfortunate. I actually really liked Nerval's design. This just looks really... I don't have a word, I'm just gonna say unique. Do not like the voice mod used for him either, but it is very, very funny that he still has this stupid mustache even in his god form. For some reason, having control over Axel's powers gives him immortality, the ability to shapeshift, multiply, and just kind of do whatever the fuck the animators want. How old is this Nerval? How long did this take to develop? What gave him access to any of this? I don't think the answer to any of these questions really matter, but like... So that's a lot to take in. Regardless, this is easily the best action sequence since Unica vs. Sin Round 1. Jacko and Biken teaming up is something I would have never expected to see, and it's a nice little treat. But seeing Soul fight again, that's the biggest treat. Every single time he does, the animators put their all into it. He whiffs a bunch, but just look at how much power every single swing has here. And he finally gets his hands on the freak, and the sheer anger of that slam, oh my god, I could watch that for hours. He even does an, admittedly underwhelming, Tyrant Rave, which Nerval just swallows up, oh my goodness. Sin comes back in, and the music just starts absolutely popping off. I am so upset this soundtrack was never released. Johnny also gets a fight for the first time since episode 1. I really love how almost all of his slashes when he unsheaths his blade are only for a few frames, just like in the game. Really sells his speed and skill. He's the first one to do any actual meaningful damage to Nerval once again, proving why he's so worth having around. Even gets to pull off a proper "That's my name" in this wonderful one-er. Jacko gets to utilize the minions, Biking gets her own anime slash, Soul blows another up, and then Nerval fucking becomes the sky. Wait a minute, this is starting to sound really familiar. Delusional man, tormented by the consequences of people having free will, acquires a god complex because of it and decides to commit genocide. He also comes complete with control over time and works with an alternate timeline version of himself. Clones himself throughout the fight, and just when the heroes think he's won, becomes the sky, and suddenly there is an infinite amount of him. Nerval is just Guilty Gear Zamasu. Like, it's literally almost the exact same, what the hell. Despite the fact that this episode should have ended on Sin being shot, this final shot of Unica looking up at what her father has become is pretty great. It's a haunting, hellish visual. Alright, so episode 6 is getting a lot of points knocked down for not being what it should have been. It's really wild how much I was enjoying every episode except for 4, and then you get here and you realize, oh no, there are only 2 episodes left. They have a lot to wrap up. Unica's character arc, the defeat of Nerval, saving Axel, freeing Kai and Dizzy. What are Ram and Elle even doing? But beyond that, it just really hits how much missed potential there was here. I didn't mind this episode, but Sin having more dialogue when he's berserk than when he's recovered is bizarre. And Unica has just stopped being a proactive character. She spends this entire episode knocked out, which, like, why the fuck? She has next to no interaction with Tyrant Sin, who just got revealed to be her brother, and doesn't get to join or even watch the fight against her dad. She was the driving force of the plot the first 5 episodes. How'd they just forget about her on the episode her brother destroys the world and her dad becomes Super Satan? This is an episode of 2 halves, and one of that half should have been the entirety of it. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It's just very disappointing. I don't hate the direction taken, but it could and should have been so much more. The penultimate episode of Dual Rulers, Dark Sun, begins with the establishment of the goal of the episode. Destroy the, and I quote, multi-dimensional distortion barrier, and break into Nurgle's weird tentacle spaceship thing so they can destroy the horde of disgusting purple fellas. We get to see some flashes of the rest of the Guilty Gear cast fighting them around the globe, which is a cute touch. I understand why we didn't get any animated bits of them doing so like we did in Exit, but I wish we could have. We do, however, get to see the Valentines do something for the first time since episode 3. The two combine their powers and blast that gigantic fucking laser pushing Nurgle's ship back. You know, until this moment, I did forget just how insanely strong the Valentine siblings are. Solved that issue almost as soon as it was introduced and killed a shit ton of Nurgles doing so. I guess that's why they were benched for most of the series. The gang are picked up and brought back to the Oval Office. Unica's locked up and it's revealed that Nurgle's ship, even with the crazy damage the Valentines did, will regenerate in less than 10 hours. So they're off to work on that. Bridget is also here, for lesbian-related reasons. President Vernon, not wanting to be homophobic, lets Unica go to help as well. I really like this entire planning part of the episode. Everyone except Biken has something to contribute. Jacko and Paradigm have their insane intellect and knowledge of magic, Johnny's got a ship to get them up there, Solstin and Unica have their strength to kill the fucker, and Vernon has the most important power of all: political influence. For the time being, all of the world's magic resources are dedicated to creating a weapon big enough to take down Nurgle for good. Before that though, Sin goes to see Unica, who is alone contemplating what she's caused to the world and those she cares about. He tries to cheer her up, but she's just completely out of it. It's a pretty nice scene. I've had friends, or have even been in moods myself, where despite the fact I appreciate everyone's help, or want to help, sometimes we just need some space and some time to think. And Sin's immediately respectful of that. Facing her father and the consequences of her actions probably won't be easy. While working on the BMG, a lone Nurgle attacks the compound, attacking and severely injuring Bridget in the only big fight scene she gets. Unica sees her being rushed to the medical ward and realizes she can't afford to sit by idly anymore, and recreates the final fight of Exit, having the BMG fired at her directly in another gorgeously animated sequence. The effects on display here are mesmerizing, and it results in the complete destruction of the multi-dimensional barrier, but at the cost of her being knocked out and captured by Nurgle. Rats. Well, that's one issue solved. Time to breach and end this for good. Everyone's there, even the Valentines, all ready to go and take Nurgle down. Sol and Sin have one more heart-to-heart. Mr. Bad Guy has created another bullet designed to kill Nurgle. I have no idea when this guy got so into guns, but regardless. Sin asks to carry it and the weight of the mistakes that led to Nurgle's godlike ascension. Millions of Nurgles start dropping from the sky, attacking magic reserves all around the world, preventing the BMG from firing and allowing the game to breach. With all life on the line, Sin realizes what he must do, what his purpose as the King of Gears truly is: to help, to communicate, to be there for as many people as he can in any way he can. And with one of my favorite slides of PNGs I've seen in anything, Sin sends as many gears as he can to prevent the Horde from allowing them to breach. I think this moment following Sol figuratively passing the torch to Sin really cemented him as the protagonist of the series going forward. His lack of merch notwithstanding. It's been building for almost 2 decades since his introduction in Overture and is well earned. I really do love Sin as a character. He's fun-loving and extremely naive, but he's not stupid. He knows when he's messed up and he's always mature enough to take responsibility and learn from it. While I wish we got more time to see him tackling his responsibility as the King of Gears instead of just like 2 conversations with a bird, this moment still hit for me. I really would like to see how he and Happy Chaos would communicate whenever the next Gear game comes around. The big magic gun fires and we're off to the races. What they face now is the most eldritch horror Guilty Gear has ever produced: Nurgle's core. I love the way he looks here. A heavily shaded, terrifying purple comet who looks like he's been around since the dawn of time. I originally was going to have a bit here about how much I love the visuals of this show and how he contrasts against the brighter, more stylized models of the characters. But then I remembered, oh no, this is the slideshow episode. Oh my god, this was so fucking funny. This initial shot of Ramlethal and the slicing of the tentacles is wonderfully animated, and then you just get a 20-second slideshow of still frames. It looks like parody. Oh my god, dude, why did they do this? There's not even any sounds for each frame. It's even more confusing because if you take every one of Ram's frames and actually put them together, it's a cool looking sequence. Surely there was a more effective way to fill time here. It makes everything surrounding the series feel so cheap. Like, there's not even any movement in them. It's legitimately just a still frame. At least when Jacko's servants attack in still frame, the image is still moving and there's actual sounds playing, giving you an illusion of movement. Also, she uses 4 servants here for some reason. How? Soul at least gets the shot of the episode. The animators fucking love this guy. This volcanic viper is magnificent. I could watch it for days. And then it's followed by even more still frames, which just lessens its impact. I don't know why it was done like this. Why weren't these sequences swapped around? For all my complaints about this entire bit, the music is not one of them. It is popping off this entire sequence. Another shout out to the soundtrack. I really hope it comes out someday. Sin unfortunately gets a really lame bit. I thought we will finally get to see him do an RTL after being cucked out of it in episode 1, but instead it's just a charge up into 3 still frames. They're good looking frames, I guess. He is then immediately captured by Nerval, and somehow Axel's here, I don't know how. He gets to do the only useful thing he does in this show by freeing Sin, and then immediately fucks off. Ollie Dog was once again very, very displeased. I was too. He's been out of commission for like years. If Nerval got to this point because of him, why is he not helping out more here? The rest of the episode is really, really well animated at least. Guess the budget saved with the still frames allowed for this phenomenal one take of everyone fighting Nervals while the ship blasts full steam ahead. Soul finally does an actual Tyrant Rave that gets 3 fucking impact frames. That's so sick. Special shout out to the sound design of Johnny Slash here. It's so satisfying to listen to. And Sin does a big driver. Hell yeah. I really do love this shot. I rewatched it quite a few times while riding this bit. Nerval puts up one last barrier, which everyone tries to break through with their magic, but it's the help from a finally freed Dizzy and a dragon-installed Kai that pushes them through. Soul and Sin do a fastball special, accompanied by some phenomenal shouts from Nakata and Miyazaki to send Sin into Nerval's core as the episode ends. It is very unfortunate that this episode has those slideshows because that brings it down a full point for me. Was originally going to give it an 8, but it's landed on a 7 for me now. But that's not my only issue. I really liked almost every bit of content in this episode. I think the planning segment taking a third of the episode really helps drive home the stakes of Nerval's attack. Unica buying them more time after realizing how much she cares about the world she's caused so much harm, and Sin being crowned Guilty Gear's true protagonist of all class. But they are victims of, say it with me, Dual Ruler's horrible pacing. Despite enjoying all of their scenes together, the show does not put enough time into either character's development. Unica gets over most of her issues after one conversation with Bridget, and while Sin gets a lot more time, almost every interesting idea and conversation he has is half-baked and sold within the episode it's introduced. The only one that isn't is his convincing of Unica to see another way, which I do think is well built up and satisfyingly concluded. I mentioned that I still found Sin's crowning as Gear's protagonist satisfactory, but that's more due to his decades of history rather than what Dual Rulers did for him. It's just a bit unfortunate. If this series had 2 or 4 more episodes to flesh things out, I doubt this would be an issue. Regardless, let's see if this can still end in a satisfying way despite those problems. The answer is, yeah. I genuinely find what makes you to be an incredibly satisfying conclusion to the show and its themes, while also feeling like they tried cramming in way too much and leaving so much more they could have explored. It begins with a flashback of Unica and Nerval looking upon the destroyed Guilty Gear timeline after the Second Crusade, with Nerval vowing to save everyone one day with her by his side. This could have happened 2 episodes ago, when it made Nerval kicking Unica hit a lot harder than it being after he betrayed her. Sin falls through Nerval's core, sustaining a lot of cuts and injuries as he does. And this will be my first of many praises of this episode's visuals. This had a hell of a budget behind it. It's ambitious, innovative, looks wonderful, and has a style all its own. This shot of Sin falling through this trippy ass tunnel into the cube dimension looks incredible. But it's followed by another flashback scene that should have happened last episode, of Paradigm and Sin discussing what he and Unica have to do before he goes on the ship. What the hell, dude? Him asking, "Can I count on you, King of Gears?" would have made Sin's realization of his responsibilities hit so much harder. Why is this being crammed in now? Regardless, the following scene is awesome. Has some great music, great sound design, and some terrific animation. Sin bobs and weaves his way through Nerval's attacks in the cube dimension, following the red light leaning to Unica. It's a scene that never stops, never stopping. It's just constant motion. My favorite shot is this one of Sin sliding past the camera with a massive blood smear. Super brutal, looks amazing. He dives into the core where Unica's being held, fucking Spider-Mans his way across the spikes, and then finally performs a super juiced version of RTL. God, I wish we got a yell of the name. That would have made the scene even more awesome. He stabs into the core while being attacked by the tentacles. He's exhausted, injured beyond repair, but won't give up. With one more scream of his sister's name, he bashes on the core. Again, and again, and again, until it finally bursts open, revealing a webbed up Unica. This is it. If they can just reach each other, this can end. Fuck, this shot is gorgeous. I want that on my wall. But just as he's about to reach her, he's pulled away again. But through extremely tired breaths, Unica begs for him to reach one more time. Their weapons stab into each other, and finally she's freed from her chains. She falls, Sin catches her, and they embrace. The two siblings are finally reunited, and it's time to end this. I don't understand how people think this show looks bad all the time, because this entire episode has looked fantastic, and it doesn't stop there. We finally get to see the dual rulers fight together. Sure, it's against a faceless blob of tentacles, but this looks fucking incredible. This one shot of them running up to Nerval's true core is just godlike. It's pure hype and it fucking hits. Then Nerval's tentacles are turned into a goddamn tidal wave and washes the two away because, again, Nerval can do whatever the animators want him to do. Dizzy actually gets to do something useful other than a beam in this show, and communicates to every gear and every other person she can around the world to give Sin and Unica their energy. Oh hey look, it's that genocidal twink. Oh my god, they have super forms! This is sick! That energy is enough to finally pierce through everything Nerval has to throw at them in another just gorgeous sequence. The fucking biblically accurate angel wings sprouting out of the two had me actually popping off. Hype moments and aura, absolutely. But it worked for me. And with that, the visual style completely changes to a black and white static-filled, incredibly trippy form. This was what I was referring to when I said it was ambitious. This is a style I've just never seen done before in a 3D anime. It's of course Nerval behind this. I think he absorbed them or something. How the fuck did him having Axel's time power allow him to do all this weird, insane shit? What the fuck is going on? The visuals are only getting more insane. The animators are having a field day here, just doing whatever the hell they want. It's actually amazing. Alas, God is no match for the power of the Soul Bad Gun. And with one more Zamasu-esque speech, Nerval Hammer is gone for good. And Unica flies herself and her sibling back to Earth, being caught by her mother's loving hands in another phenomenal visual. Look at how happy Dizzy is to see her daughter and how proud Kai is of his son. It's precious. I really wish we got to see Unica interact with her parents more. I kinda get why they were benched after this episode, because they are just incredibly OP. Would have solved every issue instantly, but it's disappointing all we get canonically is a smile and a welcome back. But something that I do really appreciate seeing is that Soul goes to Dizzy's wedding. Oh my god, this made me so happy watching it. It's a real full circle moment for him. He killed his wife twice over and couldn't face her daughter because of it, even after finally moving on from Arya and starting a new life with Django. He didn't want to cause her any more harm. It's so sweet seeing Dizzy that happy and seeing her refer to him as father for I think the first time canonically, and Django looking at him so proud. Maybe my favorite moment in the entire anime. But seriously, where the fuck is Testament though? It makes no sense for them to not be here. This fucking British cunt whose name I don't know is, but her best friend isn't. You have a 3D model that only got used for them dying. Where are they, Arcsys? I really like this moment Unica has with Baiken and Johnny at the wedding as well. Johnny calls her a gorgeous lady, because of course he does. But it came across more as him saying he's proud of how far she's come than him hitting on her to me. It's a nice full circle moment from episode 1. And Baiken acknowledging her past and forgiving her for what she did. I brought up Testament being a good foil to Unica, but I think Baiken would have been just as good of one. Her character arc and the conclusion she came to is pretty similar, and I think she would have been a great guide for Unica going forward. I guess she's already got one kid to take care of. Sin and Unica have one more heart-to-heart, arguing over who is truly the older one in the most sibling moment in the series. It's very sweet. Sin feeling awful over shooting someone going to destroy the world is so in character for him. Despite being told by everyone around him that his ideals are gonna bite him in the ass one day, and despite knowing that he made the right choice, he still wanted to save just one more person. He never has and never will give up on connecting with people. He reminds me a lot of Rex from Xenoblade in that way. He doesn't fight to improve, he fights to connect, to put smiles on people's faces. If there is one thing Dual Rulers does right, is that it affirms that is Sin's role in this world. To be the one to bring people together in a world so insistent on fighting and war. I really do love this paste-eating little bastard. Unica leaves. While Sin has found his shape, she hasn't. She hasn't made up for the terrorism or the people she's hurt, and she's going to do that while finding out what her purpose is. This final moment of the series where she just breaks down in Sin's arms over everything, the grooming from her surrogate father, forcing her to do all these things she didn't want to do, and then seeing him die in front of her courtesy of her brother, it gave her a family, but she's left feeling lost and having to leave again. And at that moment, all she can do is look for comfort from the person who never gave up on her. Dual Rulers has a lot of issues and a lot of missed opportunities, but I really don't think these two's relationship was one of them. I really do love the conclusion to it, and I wish we could have gotten more stuff like it in the show. What Makes You You gets a 9 out of 10. Despite Dual Rulers' horrendous pacing issues and missed opportunities, it manages to deliver a satisfying conclusion to the two titular characters' arcs and cements their purpose as the next generation of protagonists. I cannot praise it visually enough, it is just a feast for the eyes from start to finish. It sounds great too, and their sibling power-up just looked spectacular. It's my favorite Guilty Gear Superform visually since Overture's Dragon Install. It only falters from scenes that should have been in other episodes, as well as suffering from Dual Rulers pacing issues that were more prevalent in episode 7. So, to sum it all up, what did I think of Dual Rulers? It was alright. All to like about it as a Guilty Gear fan, and so much more to be confused about as a casual fan. I'll go over what I liked first. Its animation varies wildly in quality from episode to episode, but when it's good, it's actually breathtaking, and has a style that I've seen replicated in very few other series. Sin's development and relationship with Unica and Soul is well done and given the time it needs. It's just unfortunate that some of the more interesting stuff you could have tapped into got gutted for time. Noble's backstory and role as antagonist is shockingly effective. Guilty Gear foes tend to be written to be redeemable monarchs of moral greyness, so just having one that was completely irredeemable was a breath of fresh air, and also challenged Sin in a way that he hadn't been yet. Music is great. I want that soundtrack released. Most of the fights are also pretty great. I didn't really talk about the backgrounds of the show. They're a mixed bag. Some are awesome, others are obviously sketches they didn't have time to fully finish, but I think they added to the show's unique visual style. Speaking of its visual style, the effects in the show are all gorgeous. Like, every blast and every attack has so much personality added to them due to their unique colors, flair, and sound design. Now for the mixed/bad stuff. Its use of some characters like Axel and Baiken leave a lot to be desired. Baiken is basically there just to throw tatamis around, and Axel is reduced to a plot device for literally the entire show. It's baffling, he's brought up in episode 2 as someone to talk to by Soul, and then that's just completely dropped. And then there's Unica. While having a character arc I thought was satisfying, I wouldn't call it complete. We never really dive into her internal struggle or her PTSD outside of some brief glimpses. There's a reason that Unica was changed by lesbianism is such a meme, because that's just practically what happens. And yeah, let's go lesbians, but god, these two should have gotten more time. 4 minutes in that one episode, dude. So unfortunate. And of course, the biggest problem in the series, I've brought it up a billion times, it's the pacing. This series needed more episodes to flesh out its characters and ideas. The most disappointing thing in the show by far. It's crazy the conclusion is as satisfying as it is despite everything. Overall, I'd give Dual Rulers a 6 out of 10. And as a short romp in addition to the story of Strive and setting up Sin as the future protag, it does what it wants to. Underwhelming and inaccessible to fans not caught up on the lore? Absolutely. But as someone who is, I liked this rewatch way more than I thought I would. There's just one more thing I want to talk about. Our final stop on the timeline comes with Unica being released in Guilty Gear Strive on May 27th, 2025. Unica is a Kisk through and through. She's got an incredibly juiced version of Stun Dipper, she's got a stupidly big DP, she's got a very good projectile, she's got a massive fast slash, she's even got the closest thing to Greed's ever in this game. Well, it was before the nerf. She's really, really fun, and presentation-wise, she might be my favorite character in the entire game. Unica had a budget. The amazing intro with her weapon somehow being turned into a bike, another thing she got from her grandfather, the best theme song for a character in a long time, and insane amounts of unique dialogue with multiple characters. She has like 16 with Bridget alone. And she might be the most well-animated character in the whole game. Everything has so much weight behind it. Her particle effects are breathtaking, she fucking dabs on you when she kills with throw, and easily the best animated super in the game with weapons free. Though it really begs the question, how the fuck did she get the Thunder Seal? It's easy to assume Nerval got it off Kai's corpse in the future and made it into her gun bike, but that isn't shown in the anime. Neither is her going Super Saiyan. How the hell did this happen? I'd like to see it, please. Unica feels nothing like the tortured soul we saw in Dual Rulers. Like Bridget, she's gone off to find the shape of herself and discover what she truly wants. She now works for the US government and is a lot more open and curious about everything. Her interactions with Giovanna during her arcade route are adorable. Though I think this arcade route should have absolutely been with Baiken. It's a fun natural progression of a character after Dual Rulers that I think works well. I only wish we actually got to see it. She's gotten tons more powerful, more energetic, more sociable, more everything. She feels like an entirely different character, and going from Dual Rulers straight to this feels a bit bizarre. Anyways, that's my thoughts on everything related to the Strive anime. It was a fun romp that really got away from me. Jesus Christ. I did not expect this video to be an hour and 10 minutes. I'm so tired. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care of yourself.